I am an instructor and have been in the computer department since 1992 and have seen a lot of changes. And one of the things that I really noticed is we did not have enough females in our programs. And so that is what my focus is on. However, a lot of the things I'll tell you, if you want to get more Hispanic students, if you want anything, the same things will apply. Mine is just listed as how do you get more women in your program. And I want to share something that we had several years ago is with our SACS accreditation, annual accreditation, 10-year I guess, we had to have a quality enhancement plan. I'm assuming a lot of you are familiar with this. And we, yes, and we adopted invitational education. And this little grid I use all the time is when we're working with things, are we being intentional and unintentional, inviting or uninviting? And to give you an example, being intentionally inviting is you have a syllabus that's really clear so that people know what they have to do and how they're going to do it. An example of being unintentionally inviting is when I started teaching, I was an adjunct and I'm walking down the hall and a student stopped me and said, "What's your name?" And you know, it's kind of like, okay, kiss of death, but I told her, I said, "Out of curiosity, why do you want to know?" And she goes, "Because you're always smiling when you walk down the hall and I would like to take a class with someone who wants to be here." So that just switched me over from being unintentional about it to being intentional. If you're walking down the hall and frowning, the student is going to take it personally that you must be mad at them. Even though it's really your spouse you're mad at, the dog, whatever, you know. And so that is there. People who are intentionally uninviting, you possibly know instructors who have their door closed, lights off, and you know the student has to knock and beg to get in the door or something. That's being intentionally uninviting. Unintentionally uninviting are things like you're frowning when you go down the hall for it, and so students don't want to approach you. Someone says, "Do you have a minute?" and you're going, "No, I'm sorry, I'm always busy. Come during my office hours," or things. So as we're doing items, I just want you to think about this grid, and if you have things that you know that you're doing intentionally inviting, share them. And how many of you know the instructor or someone who's really good and you go, "Wow, how do you do it?" And they go, "I don't know, it's just what I do." That's their being unintentionally inviting. If you can have them identify what they do, you can help other people do it. So this is just a grid I use all the time, and I think it's important. I wanted to give you a little bit of my credentials. We did get a small grant to recruit more women into our technology and engineering programs. There were 3 of them within our computer department and 4 within our engineering. We were very successful with the first grant and got another grant that we're now working with 6 schools in the Appalachian region to be able to see if what we did worked for them. And I'm sharing some of what we did. And we did increase our enrollment from 39 to 75 women in 2 years for the first grant. At the same time, our male enrollment also increased. So strategies I'm sharing with you are not, one way you can have a higher percentage of females in your program is get rid of the guys. That's not what we were doing. We were increasing enrollment for everyone. So sharing some of those strategies with you. And as we're looking at things, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. If you keep recruiting the same way as you are going to keep getting the same groups of students you want. And if that's what you're happy with, if you're going, we're at a great place for our numbers, we're at a great place for our diversity and everything, keep doing it, and you will keep getting the same students. If you want to have diversity, increase diversity, in my case, wanting more women, we had to change. We didn't get rid of what we were doing because that was working great for getting male students, but we wanted to add in and get more females, so we added into it. And as I looked at who it was credited to, I found lots of different people that they want to give the credit to. And if we look at it, isn't what we really want is our students have a sense of belonging. If you feel like you belong someplace, you're going to be there. Think about yourself as an instructor. Think of yourself as a person. Is there a place you kind of dread going because you feel out of place, you don't feel like you belong there? And you know, we're all like, have degrees and are competent people, right? But we still have the, oh, is anyone going to like me? Am I going to fit in? And then if you're suddenly the only woman, the only minority, the only something, that sense of belonging is really hard to have. And when we talk about a sense of belonging, we really want it when we recruit, that when a student is going to come in, they feel like they belong. On the whole campus, is our campus a place that a student feels like they belong? Our programs, that's what we're all really looking at, is do our computer programs make someone feel like they belong? Do other students, if someone's looking around, do they look like it? And whoever was mentioning, you know, the fact that they don't have faculty who are women makes it a little bit harder. So do your faculty give a sense of belonging to students? Sometimes it can be because they can have someone who looks like them. Sometimes it's just making sure faculty are being inclusive for everyone. And so our starting point was, I do want to tell you, our focus was on increasing female enrollment. So what I'm talking about really has to do with that. However, it does apply, if you insert where I have female other groups, it's going to apply also to them. I'm also looking at the 30,000-foot view. And what I mean like that is, I was a woman who majored in technology early on, and was a person who majored. So if you're a woman who was in technology and among those 12% in the field, this might not apply to you because you go, well, no, that didn't make a difference for me. If you keep doing the same thing, you'll get the same number of people for it. So this is, how do you increase and attract more women into your program? And you're still going to get some, but how can you increase the diversity? So if you're looking at it and go, that doesn't apply to me, or, well, I know someone that doesn't apply to, I'm looking at the 30,000-foot view. For generalities. So if I say computer professional, who comes to mind? Just shout it out. Okay, Bill Gates?
Commander Grace.
Possibly Steve Jobs? Mark Zuckerberg? But, yeah, so if this is who we're looking, who can this have someone, a person could relate to? If you're a white man, can you think of computer people? Definitely. You know, and some people will have that they thought of a woman, first of all, when I said computer professional, but it tends not to be what people think about, first of all, when they look at it. And the underlying fact is that women do not see themselves in STEM professions. If I say, why should people major in the computer professions at your college? Why do you tell them to do it? Job opportunities and high-paid salaries. And you know, that's what we usually say. Major in our technology, you can get good jobs and they pay well. Well, studies show that that is why men pick careers. If you ask a man why they pick a career, they say, because I can earn good pay and I can get a job. Women pick jobs because they want to help others, work in teams, and solve problems. And so I 100% believe that the reason why women don't go into STEM even though they're interested in it younger isn't because they don't like STEM professions, but because they don't think of those professions as helping or caring professions. If you talk to a group of 14 or 15-year-old young women, what are they all going to be? Doctors? I went to a STEM event, and it's our STEM high school. There's 50 women, and I started asking them what they were going to be. 25 of them were going to be doctors. Now, I truly do not believe they're all going to be doctors, but they all were going to, and the reason why is they wanted to help others. They wanted to make a difference. They wanted to have an impact. What is the #1 skill employers ask you when they call up and ask about a potential student? Do they get along well with others? Can they work in teams? Can they solve problems? So we are not lying when we tell students that computer technologies is a helping profession. It's a profession that you're going to be able to work with others. It's a profession you're going to be able to work in teams. Think about a certified nursing assistant. If you've seen flyers, and you've all seen them of we need certified nursing assistants, what do they emphasize with that job? You're going to be helping people, you're going to be taking care of them. Did they say, hey, do you want to go change bedpans and white old people? No, you know, it's a disgusting job to me, but it is totally marketed as a helping profession. And so ours are a helping profession. I'm the biggest hero in the world when I solve a computer problem, but that isn't what we tell people about the profession. And if we want to get men, talk about salary, job potential, and the technology. Guys will pick a profession totally based on those things, even if they're not going to like it. Women will do it because they want to help others, work in teams, and solve problems. So, what can we do? One is that we want to look at the skills that appeal and how are we going to market it and what are we going to do. One of the programs in our grant was our civil engineering. This was our civil engineering program description when we first got started. It uses basic engineering to do planning, document supervising, land development, structural testing. I got lost about halfway through and wasn't going to be a civil engineer. Our instructor, who's my co-PI, went to a conference, High Tech, and they were talking about what is it if you're going to talk about your program of what you do. Here's how he reworked our civil engineering one. It's a curriculum that prepares future technicians to make our community a better place. You are going to have clean rivers and streams, design efficient and sustainable buildings, improve roads to reduce accidents, develop mass transit alternatives, ensure safe drinking water. How many of you want to go and switch your major even though we all are teaching? Yeah, and so think about and someone mentioned this in the group, are we talking about the skills you learn or do we talk about what you're going to do with it? Talk about how you're going to help people and make a difference in the world, because that is why women pick their careers. Men will pick it, hey, you get to work with cute equipment. Women are not, so you really want to work with this. Now, the next thing we really did is we really started looking at our marketing materials. Besides emphasizing the soft skills that are needed with it, people have to be able to picture themselves in the profession. If you cannot see yourself in the profession, you are not going to do it. And I really started when we talked about this, is if you think about it, how many lawyers had a lawyer in their family? You know, they knew someone who was a lawyer. If you start talking for y'all as teachers of how many of you had someone who was an academic in your background, it was probably fairly high that a lot of you knew somebody who was in the profession. We're trying to get students who don't have a family member in the profession, so we have to be able to make themselves picture themselves. So we created multiple things on our campus for it, and I'm going to just briefly show you what these are. Is that first of all, we have a picture yourself display board for when we go out to all those events. What it says in here is it says picture yourself helping others, working in teams, and solving problems. Those are little mirrors up there so that when they're walking by, they actually see their face in the mirror as they're walking. And I can tell you at high school career days, everyone, male and female, are kind of looking at their hair. So they're picturing themselves even indirectly with it. On the left side, we do have the information that there's jobs available, that they pay more, that you can, you know, all of the kind of hard facts that men are also going to apply. So we have both of them, but we're talking about the picture yourself in technology. Notice we did not say as a woman picture yourself. We're just saying picture yourself in technology. So we're not eliminating people. Next, we do have these posters that we printed 11 by 17. If you see some of the different colleges here, we did ones with some of our partner schools, so this is how we've adapted it. And it says, picture yourself in technology. These are 11 by 17 posters that we print, and they share with the high schools. They share with, you know, when we go to Goodwill, we post them. When we go to the Y, any place that has a bulletin board, we just have this poster and the contact with it. We also have this one, which is our only one that says, as these women did, and I got permission from STEM Connector, and they had sent out a 100 notable women in STEM. And I was like, oh, this would be nice to share with our students of the women going into the careers. And so we did the poster, and then we did smaller ones that have something like this, notable people in technology, Dr. Sally Ride. You know what? I cannot imagine myself as an astronaut. I was a non-traditional student who came to college after a divorce, and if someone would have said, oh, you need to go and get your, you know, bachelor's and then your master's and then your doctorate, I would have like, not me. So we also wanted some people that they could relate to, so we did notable Western North Carolina people in technology. We got some of the women in our local area and got a little bit of information about them. But I'm still looking at it and saying, not me, this is, you know, still a little bit beyond it. So our biggest ones that we use a lot are notable graduates from AB Tech. We have, and we don't say notable women graduates or anything, they just say notable graduates from AB Tech. Gail Fitzgerald says it's never too late to educate. She got her associate's degree, and if you're into electronics, which is one of our field, being a tester 3, and Eaton Corporation is a local corporation and everything is something that a person could say, oh, I could do that too. And the other one that we have as an example is Kelly Whittemore. She was working at the newspaper until they took the printing out of town about 15 years ago. She got her associate's degree, and now she works at the Asheville Regional Airport in their IT department. So someone seeing these can picture themselves in these careers. It's other women, it's people who are doing it, and they didn't have the background before of doing a lot of IT or anything. We also wanted something available for handouts, and our original grant said we were going to do like a flyer. And have you ever seen what happens to flyers after events?
Yeah. Yes.
The trash and everything. So we instead did bookmarks. And what the bookmarks say is picture yourself working in teams, finding solutions, helping others. The backside does tell you that there's 16.9 million jobs available. It does tell you you earn higher wages. It does tell you there's expected job growth. I love to toss in the one that 63% of U.S. jobs require some form of higher education, because I like to talk to people and say, you need to get something. If it's not IT, that's okay, but if you're not coming to AB Tech and getting a degree, you're really going to be limiting yourself, so having it there. We also looked at our program sheets. Our marketing department puts out a program sheet for each program. Look at that and see who you have on it. This one was great. We started out in 2012. Still, they're trying to update their pictures, but it has 2 students working together. They are, you know, looking and kind of, they're not in a solo occupation where they're sitting by themselves in a room. It's a female, and by the way, if you go back and put all females on all your marketing material, totally okay, because there are so many men and male IT models that you're going to not be offsetting all the pictures people get of it. And I can promise you, no guy is going to look at a picture of your networking program that has a female and go, oh, well, that's for chicks, I'm not going to major in it. So you're not going to have the guys not majoring in it. So you want to make sure you have females. Here's another one we did. You know, look at this before. The man and the equipment. You know, if you were looking at sustainability technology, is that something that you're really looking at going into? Look at our picture afterwards. 2 people working together. The equipment is secondary to the people working together. So you want to have pictures of females, and you want to look, if possible, if you can have 2 people working together, but be focusing on the person, not on the technology and the equipment. Now, I want to talk a little bit about recruiting, and I will tell you that you have 2 things when you're looking at it. You can do career awareness, or you can do recruiting. If you're going out to the high school, to the middle schools, you're doing career awareness. It's really good, but it's like the person said, how do you track if you ever get those students for it? If you're getting a grant like we did with the National Science Foundation, we wanted to show that we had increased our enrollment within 2 years. You're not going to be going out and doing a middle school activity and show that your enrollment increased. It's hard to know if it ever affected it. So you can do events that are going to help raise the level of women in STEM. Definitely not a bad thing, but if you're at a community college, and I'm assuming that you all are kind of like us, FTE driven, do you have more students in your program? You want to go to where can I get the students today? And to give you a few examples of career awareness, middle school career days. We go to those all the time. It's, you know, it helps. Students like it and everything, but that isn't going to give, that's giving career awareness. You're making people aware of what they can do in the career. It is not recruiting. Another one is our NC State has a grant, and they do an annual eSTEAM event. E is for entrepreneurship, A is for the arts, but they on one day bring in 127th grade girls. 2 days later, they bring in 127th grade boys. The day they have girls, they want women leading the activities and everything. The day they brought in the boys, they have men leading it. So it lets them see and be able to picture themselves in it. The activity that we're going to do in a bit, I did with the females, and they loved it. The paper came, and we got pictures in the paper. We got really great information. So it was a great PR event. It's just that those 7th grade girls are now 9th grade girls. So, you know, we're not going to see the numbers for it right away. We also do some women in history events on our campus, and once again, those are usually people majoring, and we talk about women in STEM and everything, so it's a great way to raise awareness about the program. In this case, the reason I say it's not a recruiting event is most of the people are already students, and so they're not going to change their major. These are all great events, and I do them regularly, but it was a really aha moment when I started the grant of the difference between career awareness and recruiting. And so I go to these events very freely. I just don't go to them thinking that I'm going to get a student in my class the next week as a result of it. For you all at a community college where you're saying you want to change your numbers, if you put in your plan that you're going back and doing 3 middle school camps and your goal is to have 30 more female students next year, you're not going to get those two, are not going to have. One isn't going to have the cause and effect for the other. So instead, you really want to go where the students are. Now, I will tell you, think about your community college. Our community college gets a lot of students right out of high school, but they're going into our 2-year transfer program. If I look at our career tech programs, we do not get the students right out of high school. We do not get male students coming into our programs right out of high school. We do not get female students coming into our program right out of high school. If they show an aptitude for technology, they're being encouraged to go to the 4-year university. Who do we get for students in the program? And for us, we get the students starting in their mid to late 20s up older who Plan A did not work, and they're there for Plan B. So as a result, we once again do the high school events, but we don't spend as much time there because we didn't get male students for it. So why are we suddenly going to get female students out of the program? So this is high schools. Check your data and know what you're looking at there. But once again, I can go to a lot of high schools and I can talk to a lot of the young women who are going to be doctors and everything. I might see them in 5 years or so, but they're not coming to AB Tech to major in our technology programs right out of high school. The other thing that we did, as opposed to having a student camp, we did want to let the high schools know what we were doing, and we have each summer an innovative expo, and we invite high school counselors, teachers, principals, any personnel, and it's a day-long event that they come to our campus and they get to learn about our programs. We have a whole setup with the problem-based learning and all kinds of activities. And first of all, people go, well, do you have career tech high school teachers come? And that was our focus our first year or so. But you know what? Career tech are already sold on coming to the community college. We really have found that if we can get the English instructors, the math instructors, because a lot of them have never had any exposure to the community college, and they go, wow, I didn't know you did this in the program. I have a student who really would be good for the program. And so bang for the buck. If we talk to the personnel at the high school, we talk to them once and they might influence a dozen students. If we talk and bring in 10 high school students, maybe they talk to someone else, but if we didn't grab them that day, we might never have it. We've lost out the time. So this is where talking to personnel at the high school and bringing them in is what we did for our grant as opposed to bringing in high school students. But this is, once again, what worked for us and for our items in it. So when you go where the students are, displaced and unemployed worker programs, you know, that is people who are ready to come to the community college. They've lost their job, they are ready to come to the school. They have in their mind that they can't be computer people. You know, it's got that mystique. It's this, you know, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs sort of thing. So taking it down to the human level. When I go in and I talk to students, I ask, how many of you have ever used a computer before? Almost every hand raises. How many of you have ever answered a question for someone about a computer? Almost every hand goes up. I go, mother, father, sister, brother. I said, okay, you're already computer people. The difference is I get paid for it, you're doing it for free. So that is how I introduce why they would want to major in computers. And if they have ever used a computer and answered a question, they're a great potential student. So I really look at the humanizing of it. I also go regularly to our GED programs. Have any of you looked at the GED test students have to take? I'm sure glad I graduated from high school and didn't have to take that. It's a tough test. our GED program is offered on our campus. The students are already on our campus. They have realized that plan A of just going and getting a job or living with mom and dad isn't working. They're usually ready to become students at AB Tech, and they just need to have some help of what our programs have. So I go and I talk to those students. We also, someone mentioned undeclared majors. Going back to all the young women who are going to go in the allied health field, and our nursing program has like about a 2-year wait, and as the students start doing it, they realize that they don't like anatomy and physiology and biology and everything, but they really want to do something that they're going to help others. So talking to those students about why it's a helping profession and everything is a really good part. In our state, they're classified as GOTs, but however they have to declare a major to get financial aid, and so we have that packet to be able to put people into. I also go regularly to our local job link. I go down to their meeting at least once a year, and I talk to them about what we're doing in the program, what our students have. I take a bundle of cards and I get phone calls. Like I last was there in June. Last week I had a phone call from 2 different people who said, I was down at Job Link and I need some more training, and they said I should call you to see what I should be able to do with it. So I let them know what we do, because if you ask a lot of people in Job Link, they have degrees in communication or English or whatever, they have a misperception of what computer people do. You've got to talk to people and humanize the program for it. And you also, I go and talk to our admissions and counseling staff. At our fall professional development, I did a presentation of what our programs had and why to do it. I didn't realize our admissions department with full and part-time people had 59 people in it. And those 59 people do not all know about the programs we have, and me talking to them for an hour and handing them some flyers and everything. Once again, when a student comes in and says, I don't know what I want to do, and you know, how many people in your admissions office, when a student comes in and says, I really want to help others and make a difference in the world, would say, go and major in the computer program? No. If they were a female student especially. But would you all, if you talk to a student and they say, I want to help others, would you say, well, you're at the right place. We do that all the time. So we have to let the people who have the first contact with the students know this. Wherever you have non-traditional students, that's a great place to go, because that's the students in our program. That is both the male and female students, so if I go there, I'm going to get more. But you know what? I also want to talk a little bit about what you do in the classroom, and I think people learn best learning by doing instead of talking about it. If you're planning a group activity in your class and you want to be intentionally inviting to all students, here are a few things that you want to do. First of all, I made you have a planning period. The stereotype that women will stop and ask for directions and men will just do it is true. If I had given you the bag and I hadn't made the planning period, once again, 30,000-foot view, the guys would have opened up, broken the spaghetti, eaten half of the marshmallows, and the woman would have still been saying, what is it that we need to do? So by making a planning period, it gives all students a chance to have a voice. And I'm not going and saying, oh, you know, Mark, would you make sure that Brenda, is it, gets her turn? You know, I just, without doubt, said you can't open the bag. You had to have a planning period. So I was enforcing that. I also will have to say, I put you in groups. One of the really big things that happens is if you're the only in a class and the instructor says get into groups, that can, the same as introduce yourself, feel like the kiss of death. Who do I ask? What if they don't want me? What if they don't like me? We did this activity with 32 high school instructors and one of our innovative expos. And I said, okay, there's 32 of you, get into groups of 4. We were doing several group activities that day, so we were going to see what happens. At the end of 5 minutes, when we said, okay, is everyone in groups? We had one group in the front that had 5 people, and they go, oh, well, we decided we didn't want to move. I had 2 people wandering around the room that they couldn't find a group, and I don't know where the other person was, bathroom or whatever. But this was high school instructors who could not put themselves in groups. So how do we expect college students, especially someone who doesn't think that they belong there, to get into a group okay? So I did a quick looking, and I'm sorry I forced you all to work with it, but it was part of my looking after the plan. Yeah, I looked at who was in there, and I put you into the group so that no one had to worry about, will anyone like me? Will they go into the group or anything with it? And I also, in this case, the skill set that I wanted you to learn was things that go into a group activity. If I were talking for civil engineering, I might be talking about structural material. When I'm talking to kids of why they want to do spaghetti marshmallows, it's if you had fun, you enjoy this sort of thing, you would like a technology career. I used to plan the groups in my office. I would put good students with bad students and mix this all up and everything. And after this time, I can tell you about 10 years ago, I truly went to random groups. And what I mean is, if I want people to be in a group and it's a longer project, I actually don't even bring their names in a thing. I bring like the letters of the alphabet and they have to draw out what group they're in. Because that way, whose fault was it when the group had a problem before?
Yours.
Mine. If they had, and let's face it, if you have a class with no dud students, let me know if you have a job opening. We're going to have a class that has a student who isn't going to do their work out of it. And anyway, when I assigned groups, the groups came to me of, well, you gave us this person, they're not doing their work and everything. Now, they figure it out because they know that I didn't have anything to do with it. So that's what I mean by random. Avoiding bias is really, since I do random, I don't have to worry about it. Here, it was not important for me that all of you could do the building. If it's important to you that everyone get the experience, plan it. And an example of this is we had a video class and the students shoot a video. The class had 4 roles that people were supposed to have. They had the director, or the person doing the camera, they had sound, they had lights, and they had dialogue. I had a female student come and she goes, they're not letting me use the equipment. I'm doing the dialogue, and she goes, I know I'm good at it. I have a degree in communications, but that's not why I'm taking the class. I went to the instructor and he goes, well, I told him to take turns. Well, this female, who was in her 50s, was not going to walk up and grab the camera out of the guy's hands. And I asked the instructor, and he goes, well, I told him to take turns. And I said, well, tell me how the class is set up. Now, think about this. 4 roles, 4 students in a group, and it ends up the class worked on the project for 4 class meetings. You can kind of say, each class, each person is going to do a different role. Tell me what it is. And he goes, oh, well, you know, they should just work it out. And I said, they should, but they won't. So if it's important for you that everyone get the hands-on, plan it ahead of time. Don't once again go up and say, oh, you know, would you really make sure Georgia Ann gets a chance to touch a camera? You know, that's how you don't do it. Just plan it ahead of time and don't even discuss why you're doing it. One week you're going to do dialogue, the next week class lights, the next week camera, the next week sound. Tell me who's doing it each class period. Some real world quotes from students. It would be nice if male teachers acknowledge the presence of females by not singling them out. I don't want to feel that the reason men can't make comments is because of me. Or when teachers say they can't say it because a lady is present, that's annoying. Or this one of a student saying, many times I leave class just so I can go in the bathroom and cry because I'm unsure about something. Do any of us want our students to be saying any of these things about us? So I will say, you know, this is the boxes again, going full circle, is really think about things that you want to do to be intentionally inviting, and you do them behind the scenes so that students never even realize you're doing it. They get to the class and they see a smiling, happy instructor who's planned the activities to be able to work for them. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. We go back to the sense of belonging, and that is what we want our students to do, is to feel like they belong. When we started our grant, we had a couple of great resources, and the real part is when you join the NCWIT Academic Alliance, right now at least they have grant funds that you can request these materials and they send them to you free. So if you like the word free, you want to join NCWIT. I also went to some workshops from iWits, and they have great information. The only disadvantage is they need to make money, so their materials are not free that you get for them. But they have great information, and so as we went along the way, talking to people and personal, but these were 2 of the resources I had. And I don't think I can take questions except when you're eating, because I'm standing between you and food. So thank you all very much. Yahoo!